Hey, what's going on, everybody, and welcome to this episode of Learning from the Pros. Joining me today is none other than Pedro Cortés. Welcome, Pedro. Super excited to have you here.
Awesome, man. Thanks for having me. I just look forward to sharing all my tips and making it as actionable as possible.
So Pedro today is going to be sharing with us his top 10 landing page tips. If you guys don't know about Pedro, he is a SaaS landing page master, but I will let the master himself intro him.
Yeah, awesome. So basically what I do is I just help SaaS companies with their conversions, right? Essentially the main thing, to overly simplify it, is that we take the aha moments that people usually have once they jump on a call or they try the product, and then we just try to provide those before they even sign up or before they even book the call, right? So remember all these amazing things that people get blown away once you show them the product. What if we just show them before they even try it? Just makes them way more likely to try it. So that's one of the pillars, and the other pillar is taking away the risk, right? So there's a lot of risk in buying a SaaS product. Maybe it's you have to train your team, or the setup time, or migration from one tool to another, or just learning how to use the tool. All these things that scare people away, even if they think the tool is 10 times better than what they're using now, right? So those are the main two pillars, and we're going to share way more during this call.
So many threads to pull on there.
Yeah.
All right, let's dive in with tip number one.
Awesome. So these are not in any particular order, but I would say one of the tips that we can start with is that when you're creating a landing page, you are not selling me on, you shouldn't show me the entire product, right? Show me an overview of the product. The goal of a landing page is to give me enough information for me to make a decision if I want to try it or not, right? I don't need to learn about the whole product. I don't need to learn all the details. All I need is just enough information to create curiosity for me to take the next step, right? The landing page is not selling you on the product. It's selling you on taking you the next step, right? The demo or the trial sells you on the product, right? So when you have a clear distinction between what each of these things need to do, then it becomes much more obvious what needs to go on the page and what doesn't. So one of the biggest problems that SaaS companies have is they feel like they need to add so much stuff to their page that obviously it reads really, really badly because it's just too much stuff on it. They didn't prioritize anything. Nothing kind of works together in terms of how explaining things. Like if you explain a feature, it doesn't explain how two features work together. All these little things, just because they don't know how to prioritize. They feel like they need to sell the whole product, but they don't. It's just giving them enough curiosity. If you want to use a dating metaphor, is you don't want to get married in the first date. On the first date, you're selling yourself to getting a second date, and then a third date, and then selling yourself on start actually officially dating, so on and so forth, right? So you sell one step at a time, it becomes much easier that way, and you're not a creep.
That's very, it's very good advice. Don't ask for marriage on the first date. I hope everybody really took away from that, that paradigm shift, really. It's such a simple but profound way of thinking about it. The goal of the landing page isn't to sell your product, it's to convince somebody to try it, essentially. And to your point, when you think about it from that frame, you're all right. Like the first thing that came to my mind when you said that was, what are the objections that people have that are coming up all the time, And then can you preemptively answer those things on the landing page so that now they're like, okay, you've answered these concerns, these initial concerns I have, and I can see the perceived value. I'm willing to try your product and see, and then from there go through the mechanism that you have.
One metaphor that I use all the time, or one analogy I use all the time, is your website is like a salesperson, right? So imagine if you had a salesperson that was getting visitors every single day, they were on calls every single day, but they would never address objections, right? They could present their products in the best way possible, but at the end they would never address objections, right? What would happen? They would close 0 deals. And that's what your website is doing at the moment if you don't think about it that way, right? If you don't have that right mindset when you're creating your own page. Exactly the same thing. It just changes the medium.
For people listening to this that are product-led, people tendency on the product-led side, they might be listening to this and they might be thinking, well, I don't really need a good landing page because people can just try my product and then they'll see from themselves. What would you say to folks like that?
It's like the first tip still applies, right? Because what you're doing is you're selling them, and we're going to have examples afterwards. You're selling them on trying it, right? You're selling them on a free plan. If they still have a free trial, you can sell them on a free trial. right? So it's one thing at a time. Like the onboarding process is meant to sell you on the premium version of the product and have a very clear distinction between what you can get for free and why you should upgrade, right? That is how you design the product-led model as well, right? So yeah, it's the same thing. Same thing applies. You're still selling them on signing up in the first place, because even if the product is free, you still need to sell them because it costs time, even just the mental bandwidth of switching from one tool to another, or just even trying it nowadays when they have been promised a lot of things, but in reality tools don't work. Like the skepticism that people have before trying a SaaS product just keeps boggling my mind, right? The bad experiences they had, the things they expect to happen that are not even close to being true, how long they expect things to be set up where in reality they're really simple. And if we don't communicate these things, they're never going to know, right?
Yeah, just because something's free doesn't mean you don't have to sell it. You know, you might be offering it for nothing, right? But there is a value associated with that thing, and it's on you to make sure that value is communicated and you're answering all those objections so that they can go ahead and try the thing. That's huge on the ad side. Like people offer ebooks and webinars for free and they put no thought and effort into actually selling the webinar, selling the ebook, getting people interested to actually wanting to explore that thing, and they half-ass it. All right.
Alex Hormozi has a great saying, like, free crap is still crap.
Yes.
So
it's very true.
Same thing.
All right. Tip number 2.
Awesome. So I would say tip number 2 could be selling. It goes hand in hand with what we're talking, right? So you need to sell me on the call to action, right? So let's say I'm a visitor on your website. You need to sell me on trying the products, right? Sell me on the call to action itself. So you're not going to say, hey, go ahead and book a demo or contact our sales or go ahead and try our products or sign up for free, right? That doesn't cut it, right? Because what that tells me is, okay, I can try the products, but what am I going to get? I can book the call, but what am I going to see, right? So I'll give you those 2 examples. Let's say we're doing the call first, right? Mm-hmm. If I'm booking a call, here's what people assume will happen, because it did happen before. And the bigger the customer, the more SaaS products they bought before, the more skeptical they are, right? So this is something that sometimes happens with my clients, is they may not get that many more conversions. Let's say they get a 20% increase or a 30% increase. Doesn't sound that much, but they start attracting a level of customers that they just couldn't convert before because they're way more skeptical and they pay 5 times more, right? Mm-hmm. Which is a goal in of itself. So let's say a demo, right? So you say, hey, contact our sales team, book your demo. In this call, we'll show you the products, blah, blah, blah. Or let's just jump on a call, see if it's a good fit, right? It has no goals. So that's not good. So what we want is if you put yourself in the shoes of the prospect and of the visitor, they're thinking, okay, I'm going to jump on a 1-hour call. I don't know if this is going to be a product person or a salesperson. I'm probably going to be pitched for 60 minutes and they're going to follow up with me forever. I'm barely going to be able to see the product. They're probably only going to be showing me slides. Or I need to jump on several calls before I actually see the real demo, right? So what does that do? For a real decision maker, it's either going to say, I'm not going to book the call. I'm going to send a junior person that doesn't have any decision power to book the call instead. So that's the kind of shitty leads you're going to attract, right? Mm-hmm. That is just same thing. So I'll give you an example from a client that we did a while back. So they had a tool for YouTube ads, and the angle that we used, because that's actually what happened, or what they offer, is they have the Google interface, the YouTube interface, and they show placements that you can't find in there because they come from suggested videos, which is where 70% of the traffic comes from. It's no longer from search for YouTube ads in specific. So what we did is we used that angle on the landing page, but once we get to the demo page or suggesting the demo, we positioned this as a free Google Ads, a free YouTube Ads consultation, right? So in this 60-minute call or whatever it was, we're going to show you the products and we're going to you're going to walk away with 10 placements that you'll never see, that they've never seen before, that you never tested. So you walk away from the call with something that you can take action on, and you saw the products working during the demo and how it applies to you. So it's very, 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 very valuable, right? And it gives them a tiny results, because if they want a bigger results, and obviously if you're doing ads, you need to be constantly testing, they're going to have to buy the tool, right? So it's perfect. Does that make sense? You have any questions around that before I move on to the trial example, because I have a trial example as well?
Just how I'm interpreting what you're saying. You're mentioning, so we have to sell the call to action. The first thing that came to my head is like almost like a reframe. So it's, I heard this, I don't remember who said this, but I know I didn't come up with this, but it was like framing it from a call to action to a call to value. So instead of book a demo, labeling it in a way where they can realize the value that they're going to have from that experience.
Yep, exactly. Right. And it's not giving them a gift card or anything like that. It's just showing that the demo itself is going to be valuable. Right. That's what gets them to show up. And that's what gets decision makers to show up. Because otherwise it just feels like a waste of time. And that's what I said. They're either not going to book the call, they're going to send someone that doesn't have the power to make the decision.
Yeah.
And then you rely on their ability to sell your products back to the decision maker. Not happening.
Yep. So like going through the example you just mentioned, instead of get your free demo, free YouTube ads consultation, where you'll be able to see keywords and placements you can't find in your dashboard.
Yeah, exactly. And that was an example for that particular client. I take it on a case-by-case basis. There's always limitations of what they can offer during the demo, but we'll always find the best angle possible so the demo sounds just something you would be willing to pay for. Mm-hmm. That's the goal, right?
Yep.
So the other example is for a trial. So I had this client even recently. They had a tool to gather reviews from the Square POS. So like you're a small business, you have a Square POS, and then it has like an automatic sequence to ask for reviews. So you can get reviews on autopilots, and then you can rank better in Google Maps because all these businesses rely on infoot traffic and all these things. Like they're very location based.
Yep.
What we did is instead of saying, hey, get your free trial, try it for free, and so on, because small businesses, they're insanely skeptical of products. They fear they're going to be locked in a contract they wouldn't be able to cancel. They fear hidden charges and so on. And we took the completely different route. Because what we said, and this is the headline, I copied and pasted it so I have it on hand, is that 87% of our trial users get 10 plus new reviews even during the free trial.
Wow.
So I'm going to break that down for you. So it says that most people, it doesn't say everyone, because it doesn't sound realistic, gets 10 plus reviews. And to give you an idea, 10 plus reviews, like half the time, is more reviews that they got in the last 6 months. So you're telling me I'm going to get a result that I didn't get in the last 6 months, and I'm going to get it in a week, and I'm going to get it for free.
Yeah,
right?
No, I used to have a DJ business, and we grew primarily on our local listings. So, like hearing you say this, if I would have seen that, back when I had my DJ business, 100% I would have converted. The value is realized for sure. Yeah.
So that's the goal, and they got like they have like an insane trial to paid conversion. I remember it was like 80%. It was ridiculous, even with ads. So by improving the front end, that's going to be a massive changer.
Pulling on that thread a little bit, I know people are listening to this and they might be fearful. They're like, well, I don't want to be so specific because what if they don't get 10 plus new reviews, right? They get 8 or they get 7, they get 6. And just speaking with my experience, I realized the power of reviews when I started my first business, which was my DJ business. And one of the things that we did, and I was in Miami, so you can imagine it's like the most saturated market of DJs. Everyone's a DJ. And what we did was, I realized when I was serving my audience was a huge pain point around being afraid that the DJ won't show up on time. Like it kept coming up. People were like, is the DJ going to show? Oh my God, if he doesn't show or she doesn't show, like everything's going to go wrong. It was a massive pain point. So what I decided to do was to guarantee against it. So my thing was, we show up on time or you don't pay. And that was my guarantee when I had my DJ business. This was, 9 years ago. And we crushed. And from that experience offering the guarantee, the amount of business that we generated, having the guarantee, far outweighed all of the negatives. And in my experience running that DJ business, it wasn't a long time, it was like 2 years. I never had to give a refund. And even when we didn't show up on time and we would show up like 5 minutes late, 10 minutes late, no one actually asked for a refund. So if you're listening to this and you're really fearful to like put your ass on the line and actually have something, it doesn't have to be as extreme as a 100% money back guarantee in my case, but just know that the net positive of what you'll get from what you lose makes it so worthwhile.
I think that's like a game changer for a DJ business, but I just want to emphasize that this is not even a guarantee, because these are things that happen anyway, but people don't know about it, right? This is the result that people are getting during the free trial, but it was never communicated. No one knew about this. So if they don't know about this, then it's like it's not real, right? Perceived value is always better than the real value itself. So you've maximized your conversions when the perceived value equals the real value offer, which it's very unlikely for that to happen, right? So that's always the goal.
I feel like we could stop here and people already got so much, many takeaways and insights, but we're only on tip number 2, so tip number 3.
So hold on a little bit longer. People always talk about features versus benefits. I don't really see it that way. I think about in terms of selling outcomes, right? So what we want, and I always give this example, right? So let's say you're selling analytics, which is a really boring product that no one really likes using, right? If you think about it, you're not really selling analytics, right? What you're selling is the insights that I can get. That would say it's more like the benefits. But the real outcome is, if I get this analytics tool, it means I'm going to find some sort of metric, some sort of insight, that is the benefit, that will then lead me to fix some sort of issue in my ads or in my funnel so I can make more money, right? So if you can sell them, and it has to be indirect, because if you tell them you're going to make more money from analytics, people are just going to say it's BS. So they need to understand, hey, if I get this analytics tool, I'm going to get this, and this insight that I currently can't track. And because I can get this insight, then for sure I'm going to make more money, right? So let's say I came to you and you do ads all the time. And I would say, Silvio, I will fix your attribution problem for this specific type of ad. And instantly in your head, you would think about 10 ways that will make you more money. You put a dollar sign in your head that I didn't have to say directly, right? So it's not about features versus benefits. It's thinking about what is the thing that people actually want from your products, and then showing how that actually happens. And then from there, they'll understand what is the outcome that they can get, right? Because I see a lot of tools saying, I'm going to make you more money, I'm going to save you more time. It has to be an undeniable promise. So I saw, this is not my example, but I saw an example that I really loved. The copy could still be a little bit better, but it was really smart. So they had this tool called Same Day. Basically what it was is, I think it was like an AI. So it's essentially you make a call to a small business, and then an AI voice answers, and it looks like pretty realistic, and then you get an appointment or something. And if it's undeniable that if I can get someone answering the phone 24/7, right, always picks up the phone, can answer any question, how am I not going to make more money? And then they even anchor the pricing. When you go to the pricing page, that is the one that I saved to my swipe file, it says something along the lines of, imagine having the perfect, let's say, secretary, like whoever answered the phone, working 24/7, never missing a day, and you pay them 25 cents an hour, because that's what they charge per month. Mm-hmm. That's like, if you do the math. So it's insanely smart. So that's what you want to do. Like, you want to sell them on the outcome, not on the features and the benefits, right? The features lead to the benefits, and the benefits lead to the outcome, it's a little bit harder to do than it sounds, but the concept is pretty simple.
I love that. Yeah. I'm already thinking about like sections on our site that I'm like, we got to update that. Just hearing you speak through it, but it makes 100% sense. Yeah. All right. So tip number 4.
Yeah, so tip number 4, we could say it's more contrast. This is not really like a real name. But essentially when you're selling software, or really when you're selling anything, you're selling contrasts. So here's what I mean. You're selling the contrast between what they're using now and what they should be using. The contrast between the results they're getting now versus the results they want to get, right? Let's say this is the contrast. The bigger the contrast, the easier it is to sell, because the more pain there is. The bigger the problem, and the bigger the outcome that they want to get, the bigger the rewards, right? Mm-hmm. So let's say if they look at your product, they look at it, they think it's great, it has good features, it has a lot of things that they need. It kind of hits like the checklist that they had when they were looking for a tool, right? When they were looking for a tool, or they asked their team or whatever, right? But their impression is like, this is 10, 20% better than what we're using now. What does the brain do? The brain says, not worth it, right? Constantly starts thinking about hey, this is going to take a long time to switch. This is going to be a pain. You're going to have to migrate all the data, teach your entire team how to use it.
Yeah.
The upside is not going to be worth it, right? Especially because people are already overwhelmed with a lot of things at the same time, so it's not worth it. But imagine if they came to your website, and this is how I define contrast. So when I do the onboarding calls with clients, I ask these sort of questions so I can really expand the contrast, right? So let's say the type of questions I would ask in order to provide a picture of the product that seems 10 times better than what they're using now is something along the lines of, what is something that is currently impossible for them to do that they really want to do, right? What is something that normally takes a long time, but your product could do it really fast, right? What is something that your product can automate so the people using it could focus on something else? And what is that something else? Mm-hmm. So I'll give you an example. An interior design tool, actually I'll give you two interior design tools, but they're different because I think those are the easiest ones to understand. Let's say something that normally takes a long time, but it can do really fast, right? That tool, what it did is you're designing a room, let's say a living room, a kitchen, whatever. Normally it takes a long time because you have to do all the models yourself and you have to render, and while you render, your computer is unusable, all these little things. And as you can't really go through iterations really fast, right? What does that product do? That product, what it does is it's browser-based. All the rendering happens in their servers, and it has 60,000 pre-built models. So you don't have to do anything. You drag and drop the models. You can iterate really fast. And then what we did is we showed them. We didn't promise. We made the promise, but we showed them that was real. So we said you could do it 5 times faster. And what we did is we did a time lapse of doing a living room, if I remember correctly, in 30 minutes. That normally would take the entire day. So we did a sped up version of someone designing a living room that looked amazing. And then normally that would take the entire day or the entire, like 2 or 3 days to create. So we showed them, and it's like they were blown away by it. We also, in the social proof section, instead of saying the tool is amazing, what we did is we went to their Instagram, because they're already posting this, but they didn't say how long it took. We took screenshots of what people were designing, and we said designs in 30 minutes, design in 45 minutes, right? Instead of relying on their testimonials. So that's going like above and beyond, like executing to perfection what I just said. That's one example. Another example, let's say something that they rather automate so they can focus on something else, right? The other interior design tool that I was talking about, that is more it's like a project management tool for interior designers. It's not for the design itself. Mm-hmm. But what it does is they had this, let's say they were ordering lots of things, right? So let's say they're renewing a kitchen. They had the smooth board that they had to go through. They talk with the clients, deciding on what is going to go in the kitchen and what doesn't, making sure it fits the budgets and it fits the dimensions and so on. Because they go through so many iterations, then they have to manually update a spreadsheet so then they can order everything and make sure it arrives on time so the kitchen can be remodeled on time, right? Physically, like in the actual location.
Yeah.
So what would happen, a lot of mistakes would happen. They would order the wrong things. They would waste a bunch of money because they ordered a $500 faucet that is not the correct one, and then it's a horrible experience for the clients. What that tool did is it took all the things that during the mood board and the inspiration process and the approval process, and then it exported it right away. So it's linked back to all the websites where you found them, and then it has gathered all the dimensions by scraping the website. And then you just export it, and then you can just focus on the modeling process or building it, and there are no mistakes.
And
it's also the thing that was impossible.
Just kidding. Pitching the product. That's awesome. No, yeah, it's undeniable.
Sorry, that's what we want, making it undeniable.
When you're going through that, Pedro, one of the things that popped in my mind is, I love that idea, how you got creative and you're like, with the time lapse, to create that undeniable proof. And if you're listening to this right now, to this point around the contrast, right, and creating more contrast, like I also think of it as like stacking the deck, like using, different terminology, but it's like, if there isn't a large enough spread of where they are and where you can take them, then the likeliness of them taking action is not as great. And if you're listening to this right now and you have a great product and people actually love it, think about what are the ways that you can create undeniable proof and get creative, right? What are the key things that people are speaking to that you can then, maybe it's a time lapse like what you did as an example, or using Instagram screenshots to further showcase, social proof from the actual users and the outcomes that they're getting, going back to your earlier point. But I think that's to create key point, because I think a lot of people listening to this will kind of throw up their hands and they'll say, oh, well, like I have friends of mine that are like, well, I don't have any testimonials, so I can't do anything. It's like, what do you mean? There's so many ways that you can create that undeniable proof if you get creative and kind of think through it.
Yeah, but to your points, that is what we like to call logical proof versus social proof. And if done right, logical proof is more powerful, because what it does is, if I do this, if I have these benefits, then it's undeniable that I'm going to get the results. And that is, if done right, is more powerful than social proof, because what social proof is saying is that other people are getting the results. And SaaS companies, they never do social proof properly, because they don't show very specific use cases, they don't show befores and afters, and they don't show people that they can resonate with. So people that are very similar to me with the same problem got the result I want. That is proper social proof. And still, it's not as powerful as logical proof if done right, because it tells me that I'm going to get the results versus other people get the results. It's very, very powerful seeing that, but it's more powerful me having an internal belief that I'm going to get the results using this product.
Yeah.
Right? So
right on,
that is very important. The next step is called show versus tell, which is similar to what we were just talking about. So if you look at your page, any page you have, if you have words like fast, easy, or better, like your copy is already horrible because you're using like the most vague terms ever.
I can already imagine the amount of people listening to this right now. They're just like, face palming or, looking to the side.
Yeah, just like words like fast, easy, or better, which 99% chance you're going to have it throughout the entire page. Like, it's just super vague. Instead, what we want to do is we don't want to say it's really fast. We want to show how fast it is. So the example that I have here, so we have it on the spot, is let's say, instead of saying this is the fastest email builder, right? So you can build a campaign really fast. That doesn't mean anything, right? So to me, that doesn't mean anything because people always have an ego, right? So let's say I'm an email marketer and I come to that page and that the product was designed for me, and actually I can get really good value out of it, but I can't see it because I haven't tried it. And I come there, I have like 10 years experience doing email marketing, I have a big ego already. And then I'm like, it's not going to work for me because I'm very advanced and I do emails all day and I'm very special because of X, Y, and Z. And even if they suck, they always have this ego, so you just have to get around it. It's just human nature, right? It is what it is. You just have to account for that. But if you tell me you can build email campaign really fast, right? To me, it doesn't matter because I have 10 years experience, right? I'm getting into that persona, right? Doesn't matter. Sounds like BS. But if I come to your website and you make that promise and you show me, we could use the time-lapse example as well. Watch me build a 25 email sequence in 15 minutes. Then I'm going to watch that, because what that does, and it doesn't have to be a 15-minute video, it could be the time-lapse as well, or it can be, this is the input that I provided and this is the output I got. So let's say the email tool used AI, and they used AI buzzwords throughout the website that no one cares about, right? What it should do is, this is the input I gave it, right? So I want a 25 email sequence, and the first 5 emails needs to have this goal, and it needs to be similar to this example, and at the end I want to sell this product, and we want to follow up with them for 2 months, because we know that's the buying cycle, right? So giving that input, which is very small, imagine if I then show you all the emails that I created. So I created all the emails with your writing in tone, with your product in mind, with your goal in mind, and you're already pre-scheduled every email. How much better does that sound than just saying it's fast? Then you're blown away when you see that, right? Completely different. It's showing versus telling, which we have to take on a case-by-case basis. But this is something that you have to do, right? Because otherwise people are not going to see it. Even if you have a free trial, they have to go through some sort of form. They need to have the ideas of what they want to build for an email campaign, which most likely they don't. They just are looking for a better tool because they're frustrated, but they don't have the ideas for emails right now as they signed up. So what that does is they just exit the tool.
Yeah.
Right? They don't have any examples. They don't have any reference. They don't see what the output is. So they're not going to be motivated to try it out with their product because they haven't seen the potential, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to get you more trials and more people actually using it.
Yeah, and I think this just blends so well with your earlier point around the outcomes, and getting creative. Because it's easier to say it's fast, right? It's easier. It's much less impactful ultimately, but people, I think they have a tendency to say things like it's fast and kind of take the easy way out, because on the flip side, it's like, well, if I'm going to be specific, now I need to back up those claims and I need to think about how I'm going to showcase that. And like to your point, most SaaS companies, they're not doing that, and that's a huge unlock for them if they do.
Yeah, it's just sounds completely different. It's like someone that is very well spoken versus someone that doesn't know how to pitch themselves, even if one is 10 times smarter than the other, right? Mm-hmm. Guess who's going to get hired?
Yeah, in a world where people are extremely skeptical, especially if you're in the SaaS space and you're dealing with, strategic buyers, specificity is how you're going to ultimately resonate, right?
Yeah, but it just it takes like a lot of skill and a lot of mental reference to know exactly where to find the angle, right? So the more reference you have of what's good and what's bad, the better. And that we're going to get to that later as well. So the next step.
Step 6.
I believe we are in step 6, but
yep.
Yeah, we're just going to go through all the tips anyway. So you always want to sell the outcome indirectly, right? So it's similar to what I was telling before, because I kind of went on a tangent in one of the tips, is that you want to think about what is the ultimate outcome that people want to get, and you always have to sell it indirectly, right? So the ultimate outcome is always going to be time or money. But if you tell it directly, no one's going to believe it. Like, you're going to say, use this project management tool to save time or save money. Like, no, you're going to have to sell it indirectly, because otherwise they're not going to believe it. You can make any promise you'd like, but if you don't justify it, then it's pointless, right? It's like, I now see this a lot. They might say, we're the number one CRM for this niche or something, right? Mm-hmm. No one's going to believe that, right? Your website sounds like an egotistical jerk that just talks about good things about himself and no one likes him, right? That's what a lot of SaaS websites sound like, and then guess they don't really convert that well, right? So I'll give you a random example. It's kind of similar to the one I gave before. So I had a client a couple of years back. I believe they were acquired since then. They had like an AI voice, something that would answer the phone, but it was different. Like, it was just to gather their details and book an appointment, not to actually sell anything. It was just to book an appointment. So this was specifically for dentists. And what would happen is, let's say, like, whenever you're going to a dentist, because people hate dentists, they already have like a big problem, right? Usually. So they want to get it fixed fast. And if you don't answer the phone, I'll call someone else. The problem is dentists are very expensive. So that lead that you just missed, it could have paid you $1,000 or more. Mm-hmm. Even if it's not directly, even it's through insurance, doesn't matter. So one thing that I've used, because we also want to quantify this, is every day people call your practice, and for every patient you miss, it could be like $1,000, right? Yeah, I have to rephrase it because I don't remember exactly. We're just quantifying every lead that you're missing and goes and calls someone else, right?
Yeah.
So what we've used is we went through the whole page, selling them on the idea that you have this tool that answers the phone whenever your secretary isn't available. Maybe she's having lunch, or he's having lunch, or they are on a break, or they are past business hours. And we even used a study that said that most deals come past business hours or on weekends or something, because it was true. And we also used that. And then what we did is we spent the entire page so they could understand that they're losing thousands and thousands every month to their competition that would answer the phone first.
Right?
Yeah. So that's what we did.
That's brilliant.
And that is undeniable, right? You're telling me that if I answer the phone, and each one is worth like $1,000, if I don't answer the phone, I'm going to lose the deal. So someone answers the phone for me, I get the money, undeniable.
You know what I'm thinking too? Could be like a great addition to that page, and like a cool way to also show it indirectly is you create almost like a slider, like a tool, where it's like, how many hours is your secretary out, like, not working or something. And then based on the values, it just multiplies the associated value of whatever their lead is worth to them. And now you've created this like massive quantifiable number of like, great, well, we can save you that, with AI.
Yeah. One really smart thing I've seen recently, and this is inside a product, but the copywriting principle is the same. They have like a free live chat tool, which is the one I use on my website. And what they do in order to upsell you to the AI reply or something, because I don't really need that, is it sends you a report every day, reminding you that you're only online. Someone else in my team was online, or they were only online 40% of the time, right? Or they got this many offline messages versus this many online messages, right? So what it does is constantly tells you that if someone was there 24/7, you could have gotten those leads. Mm-hmm. And it tells you that every day or every week, depending on how you subscribe to the reports. Constantly reminds you of the results that you should be getting with a paid version. In my case, I don't need it, but that is genius.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Imagine your high traffic site, of course, 100%.
Yeah. It's the same thing, different medium.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Always sell outcomes indirectly. I love that.
Yeah. So the next step would be that the purpose of the hero is not to sell you on the product, is just to create curiosity. So a lot of SaaS companies, what they do is they try to stuff as much information into the hero as possible. That makes it very vague, and then people don't really get it, and then they keep scrolling, and it just gets worse and worse, and then they're just like, I'm out, right? Because if you don't create curiosity right away, people are either just going to leave, or they're going to skim the page even more than they already do, because no one reads the page. They skim through the page, right? That's why you need to have really good headlines to grab their attention, and every section needs to work together, so every little section kind of grabs their attention back, because they're always skimming, always, right? That's what we want. So what you want to do in the hero is you don't want to sell the product. You only want to show the aha moments. So let's say the aha moments, for example, I saw this product yesterday, just randomly, and I had to guess what it did because I didn't get it at the beginning. Essentially what it does is you do an audio recording. So let's say I say, I want these slides, and I want to talk about this, and I want the intro to be like this, and the outro to be like that, and in between around 10 slides, and I wanted it to look professional like the Apple notebook presentations that they do, or keynotes, whatever they call it. So you take that audio drop, and then there's an AI tool that generates all the slides, all the numbers of size that you need. Let's say you say 20. It adds all the content, it fills the templates, and then you just make it happen. So you saved 80% of the time creating the slides, right? Problem is they just said, basically their headline was, you talk, we'll write. And then it showed an AI picture instead of just showing an audio clip being turned into a 30-slide presentation.
Yeah.
Right? So the aha moments, their call to action was good because you just said, just talk and try it. It was good because, you do that and you'll see it right away. The problem is, what if I don't know what to talk about? What if I don't know what I want? Why didn't you just show me in the hero? I could have understood the aha moments right in the hero, taking an audio file into a fully fledged presentation, and I would see that right in the hero, and I would know 80% of what I need to know about the products. And if I don't know enough, it creates curiosity for me to keep scrolling down. And if I'm curious enough to try it, I'll try it right from the hero. Mm-hmm. That is the goal. That's how you design your hero section. There are a lot of ways in terms of how you can make that work, but that would be a copywriting masterclass instead of a few tips.
Love it. Tip number 8?
Yeah, so I think number 8 would be removing the risk is always easier than clarifying the outcome. So clarifying the outcome like I just did, of making a really good hero, making the claims very specific like the one from the dentist, or the results we talked about before, like showing you that you can build a 25 email sequence in 30 minutes or whatever it is. That takes a lot of skill in order to always find the angle that would work for you, especially if you're working on the same thing for a long time. If it's your own product, working on the same thing for a long time, it's very, very hard that they're going to find that angle. Just a random example, when I write copy for myself, it's 100 times harder because I've been doing the same thing for a while, and I just don't have an outside perspective. Mm-hmm. And obviously, if I try to find inspiration, all the other websites kind of suck, so I just have no ideas. right? I need to look elsewhere. I need to look at another industry or something, try to get a few ideas. It's just much harder. Even for me that I already do this all day, every day for the past 7 years, right? So it's much easier for you to remove the risk than it is to clarify the outcome. So if you look at your page, it would be much easier to make your call to actions clearer, to address any objections that people have, or to just provide more examples to whatever thing you're talking about. Let's say you have that interior design tool, and you're saying that you can design like really fast, or you have lots of models. Why don't you show me more examples of 3D models already have? Why don't you show me examples of what your users have built? Right? Just show me more examples. So then I visually see it and then just clicks, right? Addressing objections. Let's say we stay with the same tool. One objection would be, my computer is not going to be powerful enough to do this. So what we just say is the rendering happens in our servers. So your computer never slows down and you can keep using it because nothing happens in your computer locally. Nothing, right?
Yeah.
And you actually get, we said something along the lines, you get photorealistic renders within 30 minutes, and usually we take the entire day and you can use the computer. And then clear call to actions is the ones that we said above, right? So instead of saying you're going to get a free trial, you said, what is the outcome of that free trial? What is this thing that I'm going to get for free, and so on, right? It's much easier to do those three than it is to make the outcome clearer, because that requires a lot of copywriting skills.
Yeah,
so
that makes a lot of sense. It's almost, I'm almost thinking too in terms of like inverse thinking. You know, sometimes it's hard for folks to clarify how to get somewhere. They're like, you know, but it's much easier to think from the perspective of how do you not get there, and then listing those things out, and kind of taking that parallel here in the same regard. So it's like, if you can remove the risk, then it becomes a no-brainer to them, and they're like, what do I got to lose? Let me try it, you know?
This is a random tip that you just remind me of, that is related to what you said. This is just a mental model. And I use this for whenever I'm onboarding clients and I try to find their USPs and so on. And this is useful if you kind of just stuck and don't know where USPs are anymore because you worked on the same thing for a while. It is much easier to find what are the problems with other tools than it is to find the benefits or unique benefits of your tool, right? So if you go through someone else's reviews, it's much easier to understand that, hey, their support sucks because it's really slow, and it's based in India, and all the clients are from the US, and then everyone's asleep. Or their support, they forward you to an article instead of fixing the issue, so it's useless. Or it's lacking this feature, or this thing is slow, or whatever. Right? It's much easier to then turn that and turn it into your USP, right? For example, in your case, your support would be, hey, everything is US based, or is based around the world, so it's up 24/7. We're not going to send you an article. We're going to fix the issue because our support team, and I used it with the clients as well. Our support team is actually not support people. These are the engineers working on the product. So if you have an issue, testing, because that was a QA testing tool, we'll fix it because we are the engineers working on the product. And that just works amazing. Just
giving an example on my side, when I was thinking through AdConversion and how we're going to build this thing and structure it, I was doing research on other academies and seeing what are the things people hate about the current standard. And one of the things that I kept seeing was people said, the course content is amazing, but it's just way too long. I'm just so busy, I don't have the time to be able to consume all this material. So then from there, I worked backwards, and that's how I came up with the idea of we're only going to have no lesson longer than 10 minutes by design. So it's a rule that we have for all of our courses. No lesson can be longer than 10 minutes. And it's purposely so that we can help combat that issue of having these bloated courses. And it also it helps focus the instructors as well in terms of what's the 80-20 here, right? Because you only got 10 minutes a lesson to really get your point across on what matters most.
Yeah, and I like doing the same thing as well. It also, when you have a very clear outcome, like a smaller outcome, then that also helps quite a lot. The next step would be that aha moments are like the key to making a really good landing page. So if you don't know where to start, right, because you haven't done this like 100 times, I haven't written like hundreds of pages at this point, right? It's not going to be as easy for you to figure out what should I write, right? What should I add to my page? What the structure needs to be like, and so on. This won't fix all those issues, but it'll just make it easier, right? So let's say you open up your notes or your Google Doc or whatever. Instead of thinking about what should I write on this page, you think about what are the aha moments that people get during the trial or the demo that they should get on the landing page and list them out. So maybe it's seeing that our support is very engaging. Like, for example, our engineers reply to all the tickets, not normal support people, right? Like the typical support person. Another thing could be that you can create a test using the same client. You can create a test using a Chrome extension, and you create it in 2 minutes, and anyone can view it. So why don't we just show someone creating a test really fast and showing that he has, we show that. So we showed, watch me create a 50 plus step QA test in 2 minutes, something like that. And that was something that a developer would have to make, and they would keep breaking. Whereas they could just use a Chrome extension, click through it, it was recording, and then that's it. They just have to pretend they're a user. Anyone in the team could use it. So you just keep using the same thing. What is a list of aha moments that people get that they're not seeing on the website? And then you just come up with ideas on how to show those. And then that would make your page 10 times better already, right? Way clearer. That is an easy framework to think about.
I love that. Yeah. Also, folks, connect with your sales team. You know, if you listen to this, you're on the marketing side, connect with your sales team and ask them, because if anyone knows the aha moments better than anyone, it's your sales team. Because when they're running that demo, they know the areas within their pitch where they see their prospects light up, they lean in, they get interested. So really working closely with your sales team and making sure that you're mirroring those top aha moments on the landing pages is an easy go-to place.
Yeah, I if they have a sales team, I always have like a couple people on the onboarding calls as well, and I ask them exactly that question. What is something that makes them light up during the call? Or at the end, not all of the objections are actually relevant because people have a lot of BS objections just to get around the real objection. So usually the biggest ones happen if they have a very specific question around a feature they have, a use case they want. Let's say you have a big agency and you're looking for a CRM, and you have this requirement, maybe it's a legal requirement, and if you can't use that, then you can't buy the tool. That is one objection to look out for. But usually the biggest ones are at the ends. When you're trying to get their commitments to actually sign up and get started, that's when the real questions come in, because they've been avoiding those the entire call, right? So that's should definitely get them involved.
One of the things that I'm picking up, I don't know if you've noticed this, Pedro, but as you're going through these different points, you're consistently bringing up questions to ask. You know, maybe it's like subconscious for you now because you've been doing this for so long, but it's like you're bringing up these questions, and then those questions are surfacing insights for you. It just always leads me to, there's this great thing. It's like we don't lack good answers. We lack great questions. And if you ask a great question, you'll get a great answer. So if you're listening to this, like thinking through those critical questions to ask yourself already will give you a mental frame to then have a chance at finding better answers. Because people start from scratch, you know what I mean? They're not asking a good question to begin, and then they're all already at a disadvantage trying to struggle to find the right answer.
That is really good, because one objection that I usually get is people think their market is always different or more difficult and so on. That is like the ego thing that I talked about, where in my case I've done it hundreds of times. I know I'm going to find a way to make it better. It's just, for me, it's not even a question. But for them, because they haven't seen it, it seems really hard because they haven't seen it. They haven't seen me doing it. So what I usually say is, obviously I've showed that I've worked with lots of different niches. That usually helps. But the main thing is you want to think about me as almost like your therapist. So you show up to the call. That's where I get all the insights, or most of the insights, like 80% of the insights. Then we do like async stuff or questions and look at reviews and competitors and so on. But let's say we're just talking about the onboarding call. You show up to the call almost like a therapy. So you have all the answers. You know the niche. You've worked on this niche and then this product for years, but I have the questions. I'm the one that extracts the insights out of you and finds which ones are relevant and which ones are trash that you need to get away from, and there are false beliefs and they're just hurting your mental health or something, right? I'm the therapist that extracts all the insights, but you have the insights, right? Over time, because I've worked with so many niches, I'm going to know exactly what the objections are because I've done them before. But assume that I don't know anything, I'll still be able to extract. That's the goal.
Yep. I love it. You guys, yeah, if you're listening to this, if you don't have someone to run it by, be your own therapist. You know, as cheesy as it sounds, you know. and go through that mental exercise and workshop it. But yeah, it's such a great frame to think from. All right, I know we are coming up on the hour, and I want to be respectful of your time. So moving on to the 10th tip.
Yeah, so we should be able to squeeze these tips, no problem. So let's say the last tip, then we have a little bit of a bonus, is the 3 pillars for a great landing page. This is how we want to think about any landing page. This is like a mental framework I use. And if you miss any of these pillars, you're losing out on conversions because they have to work together. So the 3 pillars I always talk about are the results, why is it better, and the risk. So I'll give you an idea. If they look at your landing page and I don't understand what is the result that I'm going to get, then it's not worth it. It's not worth buying, right? Because even if I understand that it's better than what I'm using now, and it's actually very easy to get started, so there's no risk, but I don't see the outcome, then it's a nice to have. Because it's a tool, it's one of those tools they'll see on product hunts. Looks really cool. In reality, it's not really that useful and no one buys and then they go out of business, right? It's a shiny object. No one pays for it. They see it as a nice to have if you miss that pillar. If let's say the next pillar is being perceived as better than what they're using now. It's not 10% better, it needs to be like 10 times better. It needs to feel like a game changer. So let's say they go to your website, they understand the outcome. Oh, I'm going to save a ton of time with this. It's actually very easy to get started. There's no risk. All of my concerns are answered. But I don't see why this is better than what I'm using now. What I'm going to think is, this tool is amazing, but I already have a solution for this. The tool that I use already provides the same outcome. So why should I switch? I won't sign up, right? Yeah. And the last pillar is the risk. So if I understand that the outcome that I'm going to get from this page is really good, I'm going to make a bunch of money from this product, right? It's going to save me a ton of time, whatever. It's way better than what I'm using now. It's like 10 times better than what I'm using now. But for whatever reason, the risk is missing. I assume it's going to take 6 months to set up. Or I have 50 people in my sales team, let's say this is a sales tool, and I have to reteach them how to use this tool and probably change our sales process in order to use this tool. So therefore, realistically, this is not going to happen because people are not really, open to change. Yeah. And people are not going to, my sales team is not going to adopt this new tool. So even if it was much better, let's decide on this later, right? That's what, if you are on a demo call, they'll say, this is great, but we're not ready to buy yet. Maybe in 6 months. And those 6 months never come. They keep delaying it because the risk is too high. So if you're missing any one of these, you're just losing out on a bunch of business. They have to work together. So use that mental framework to know what's missing. Which one of the pillars is missing the most? For sure you're missing all 3, but which one is the worst at the moment?
So just to recap it back, first pillar is the result, right? Going back to if we pulled the frequency from this transcript of the word, how many times the word outcome was mentioned, if you guys get one thing, right? Really speaking to the outcome, what's the result that they're going to get? Then speaking to how it's better and being specific, right? We talked about earlier, specifics, showing examples, getting creative on how you can create undeniable proof. If you're going to leverage social proof, make sure that you're leveraging social proof that's relevant based on the persona, the use case, or the industry. Really show people, don't just tell them. And then from there, they're, in their mind, they basically build up like, okay, I can see how this can help us. It sounds fantastic, but I have inertia, right? I'm stuck in my ways. I've got everyone on my tool, and then I'm gonna have to go through all this migration and et cetera, whatever the perceived risk is and all that in terms of time and money. And that's why you want to address that as like your final piece here within the framework. Yeah,
exactly. And then we have like just one last bonus tip, which I think is very, very important, even though it looks really small, is that you want to improve your mental reference. So I'll give you 2 random examples for this. So when I was a kid, I used to draw a lot, right? And I drew like for 12 hours a day. I do that all day, every day. And I was really good at drawing, and I still draw like once or twice a year. So essentially, you give me like an image and I can recreate it. It's almost like a puzzle to me. But I realized over the years, it's not, I wouldn't be an artist. Even if I draw really well, I wouldn't never be an artist, because what I'm doing is I'm copying something. So an artist that can come up with something and draw it out, my favorite ones are like video game artists, because they come up with an entire world from their head. I don't know what kind of drugs they're on. But it's like insanely talented. Yeah. Because the reason why they can make that work is because they have insanely good mental reference of what wild dog would look like, or what a gun looks like, or what a post-apocalyptic world would look like. They have insane mental reference of what it should look like, so they can draw it out from memory, right? They don't need that much copy and so on. They do have pictures in their screen before they start drawing, but they have really good reference of what it needs to look like, right? That's what you want to have for landing pages. So if you don't educate yourself of what's a good landing page and what's not, then you're going to keep copying the wrong people. What most people do is they look at big SaaS companies. They have lots of brand awareness. They can afford to make really vague messaging because everyone knows what they do. Like MailChimp. MailChimp was one of the worst examples on earth, or Asana or something. Everyone knows what they do. They waste a bunch of money on ads. They don't make any money. They keep losing money every year. And then they can afford to do that because they have venture capital and they have huge brand awareness. You'll never be able to do that, right? So you need to be crystal clear. You can afford to not do that, right?
Yeah.
So let's give you a random analogy. Let's go back to the dating analogy. Let's say, Sylvia, you're single and you want to go out on a bunch of dates and you're looking to dress better, right? Because you don't have a good mental reference of what would make you more attractive, what do? You have a stupid haircut. You have your beard shaved weirdly.
Yeah.
You have like really weird clothes that they're colorful and they look like trash. And you have like the most horrible style ever.
Hey man, you didn't hear that's in? That's the new fit. What are you talking about? No blended fades?
Yeah.
Come on.
Maybe you're just ahead of your time, like too ahead of your time. But yeah, and then you go on dates, and then no one finds you attractive because you have like the weirdest style ever, and then you wonder why is that, right? Same thing happens with your landing page. You keep looking at the wrong reference, and then you copy it, and no one likes it, no one understands it, and then no one signs up. It's the exact same thing.
The blind leading the blind, essentially. You know.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. The quote that comes to mind is from Pablo Picasso, and it's good artists copy, great artists steal. And you need to constantly be on the look and searching for inspiration that you can steal insights from, then recreate it and make it in your own way.
Yeah, exactly. And then over time, you'll be able to come up with your examples on the spot, because unconsciously you'll have hundreds of examples in your head that you're unconsciously cutting and gluing them together. Mm-hmm. And then you don't have writer's block. You can throw things at the dock and it just works.
I love that. Improve your mental reference, guys. If you're listening to this, if you're responsible for creating landing pages, writing copy, study more copy. See what great copy looks like. If you've got to design a landing page, go study great landing pages. I think the hardest part for people listening to this, I'm just playing devil's advocate in their mind, is like, they're like, well, I don't know where to find good examples, or I don't know where to find good ads. And for me, at least, like what my experience is, I tell people to just start with the things that catch your attention, be mindful of it, and then document it. You know, because oftentimes we're getting inundated with all this marketing material, but we're not stopping and pausing and then documenting the things that actually caught us.
Yeah, one last example that I think would work really well is, like I said, I used to like draw every day when I was a kid, and then I stopped drawing basically because I couldn't meet the expectation in my head. I was just like a little bit too crazy over it. But what happened is I kept being interested on it, right? So I kept looking at things, and I kept looking at speed painting, which is just a time lapse of people designing stuff. And the reason why I'm saying this is because an artist doesn't train their hands, they train their eyes, right? So once once a year I draw again, I'm always better even though I didn't draw, because I keep seeing things and how other people draw, and it's training my eye. So when I get to drawing, it just works. I might be a little bit more shaky because my hands shake a little bit. So that's the hardest part, because if you don't practice, the mini muscles you have here, it's harder to control. But besides that, like if you train your eye, that's everything for an artist, right?
Yeah,
so
I love that.
Same thing with landing pages. If you train your eye for what's good and what's bad, then you can come up with things on the spot, and you'll get better even without writing. Right on.
I hope you guys got a ton of value from this episode. I feel like we could have charged for this 10-tip masterclass that it truly became. Pedro, if people wanted to connect to you, where can they find you? So they can search for my name and find me on LinkedIn, or they can go to cortes.design, which is my website, where you can find, essentially what we're doing is we
rewrite your page in 7 business days. It's fully done for you. And essentially, instead of going through the trial and error of figuring out what to write, how we can make the page really good, and so on, what we do is you jump on a call. I'll get all the information from you. As you can see, I can do that on the spot because I've done it hundreds of times. And we'll write the perfect page for you, and it'll be ready to implement in 7 business days later. So that's what we're doing. And yeah, you can find a bunch more info about it in there or on LinkedIn, or ask me questions in there or anything around those lines. I'm always happy to help.
Notice how he said we'll rewrite your page in 7 days. Specific outcome, not just I will rewrite your page. So a great way to show, like, to end everything and kind of put what you preach into practice, with what you're doing on your own side. So thank you so much for being here. I know everyone's going to get a ton out of it. So guys, if you aren't connected with Pedro on LinkedIn, feel free to follow him. He posts great content on LinkedIn, and definitely go ahead and check out his website if you're looking for help with your landing pages. Thanks so much, Pedro.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.